Welcome back to the Bluechip Breakdown, Vols fans. We are your hosts, Bull and P, and today we're just going to be talking Tennessee football, Tennessee sports in general, but it is football season, so the primary focus will be off of the first scrimmage and really all of fall camp. I think that we've been doing a really good job so far, but we definitely want to get a whole lot of feedback from y'all as viewers. We're going to check on the poll here. Let me see what's going on with it because I did ask the question of what position group is concerning y'all the most. And right now we have 80% in for the secondary, 10% in for the running back. So y'all make sure to keep on voting on that because we're going to come back to that here in just a minute. And we'll probably kick it off with whatever position group everyone is the most concerned about. Real quick, P, which one would you be the most concerned about?
Man, it's tough. I don't know. I think secondary is a good option, but I don't know.
Yeah.
For me, it probably left guard, even though, I thought we're pretty solid there, but it probably left guard for me still.
Yeah, I would have to go with the secondary just because of the way that I had to do it. They don't give me a whole lot of options on there. So, but it's more specifically, it's not the corners. It's really not even star. It's just with the safeties. And we'll kind of get into that here in just a minute. But as always, y'all, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And like we've been saying over the past, few videos, make sure that you are subscribed because there's a lot of people that watch us on a consistent basis. I think that y'all do enjoy our content. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. It helps us grow. It helps us out so much. That is the easiest way. I mean, it doesn't cost you anything. It takes just 1-2 clicks. So please make sure that y'all are doing that. You can also donate to the channel by scanning the Cash App QR code in the top right-hand corner of this video. And if we had if we had everyone that watches, and not everyone that watches, but if we just had everyone that watches on a consistent basis donate $1 a month, just $1. If you could donate $1 a month, P and I could do this thing full time. We could bring y'all some phenomenal content. So, we are asking for y'all to donate if you could. If you can do more than $1, that's great. But I mean, you don't have to do a whole lot. We're not asking for a ton of money. Also, big shout out to everyone that has been donating because y'all are awesome. Everyone that has, just supported us to this point. We're almost up to 6,000 subs, and that's big. Just because we kind of started this whole thing off, P, just kind of like breaking down film, but now we can do different things because a lot of Tennessee fans and probably fans from some other programs, things like that, have bought in. So thank y'all so much for your support. You can become a member and also help to support this channel by clicking the join button just below this video. You will get exclusive content, things we can't share on this side of YouTube. Also, we are on all social medias. I am going to have that down in the deal below. So keep a close eye out for that. I'm going to put that in here in just a second. I think that I forgot to start off doing that. But either way, we appreciate y'all so much. So let's go ahead and jump into this thing. And actually, Pete, I want to start off with our Vols in the NFL and in the pros in general because we've been playing lights out. You know what I mean? I'm so proud of what this staff, starting off with Coach Heupel, has done, especially with those quarterbacks. Super proud of them. Everyone's talking about, hey, listen, you can't go into that system and then go into the NFL and produce. Well, you're wrong. So I'm going to just kind of like run down some of the stats, starting off with Hendo Cinco, Hendon Hooker. He was 5 for 9 in his debut versus the Giants for 36 yards, 4 carries for 34 yards. Now, he did go out, because he tried to truck somebody. And that was just because it sounds like there was a whole lot of back and forth fights, things like that with his team versus the Giants. And that he's a true volunteer, right? Like it's not the best thing for him personally, but you love his fights, you love his dog. And P, you and I was just talking about him as being, a major catalyst for everything that's going on with Tennessee right now. You think about it, from 21, but really in 22, all that he's done. We talk so much about North Carolina being a big state for us. This last cycle, really several cycles, but I mean, he's played a very pivotal part in getting us Faison Brandon, who we think is going to be a generational type of talent. But you just cannot say enough good things about Hendon Hooker. But P, what did you think just in kind of seeing the way that he was playing out there?
Yeah, I thought he played very well, man. He looked very calm. The same Hendon we know, processes things quickly, even coming from under center, play action, turning your back to the defense and having to, redirect and find find, hey, how much has things changed since you turned your back on these guys? All these things these NFL scouts, these analysts said he probably wouldn't be able to do. He's doing it at a very high level, and he looks very, very good. I mean, I think if he can just stay healthy, that's something I kept, I was watching the whole game, and, he kind of kept taking off running. He never would slide. He kept trying to get those extra yards, which I felt like at Tennessee, I felt like he slid a good bit more at Tennessee. But I think
I cannot recall him ever sliding. Actually,
I can. He definitely slid. Now he didn't take those type of shots. He didn't always try lower. Now he did run hard from time, like He did spin and like that. But I think after he got hurt against Pitt or something, it was one of those games early in his career. He got a little dinged up. I think after that he started sliding a little bit more. But he was just running so aggressive, man. He's gonna have to kind of tone that down in the NFL. But I mean, he's a playmaker, man. He looked very calm. Made some good throws. I saw him miss one throw, and I think it was a 12, 15-yard curl route, threw a little high on the guy. But quick decisions, got out of his hand quick, dumped us a run back when we needed to, escaped the pocket when we needed to. So, I can tell he's a guy that, in my opinion, we didn't see Jared Goff, obviously. But he could be pushing for that starting spot, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, I think that he's a starter on some team, right? Like it might not necessarily be with the Lions because, like you said, P, they do have Goff, and usually whenever you have one quarterback, you don't really need two starting caliber guys. But I would love for him to get an opportunity to be a starter. He has to protect himself though, because I mean, playing in the NFL, I mean, they're so big, they're so fast, they're so strong. Any of y'all who've been to an NFL game, you can just tell the difference in the speed. It's crazy watching it live. I mean, it looks so much slower on TV. I would say, P, maybe like it looks maybe 3 to 4 times slower on TV than it actually does in person. So you have to be very careful with that, and we all know that. But let's move on to Joe Milton. So proud of him as well. He went 4 for 6 for 53 yards, 1 touchdown. He had 5 carries for 22 yards, and they played versus the Carolina Panthers. I've watched his stuff several times, but a whole lot of people up there for the Patriots are saying, man, he could end up being the starter. Now, it is just week 1 of preseason. He's going to have to continue to do that, but I think that he's got a good shot if he can just he actually looks more comfortable, right? Like just kind of like slowing things down. I think that he looks very comfortable. So I think that that's big. And then also Jalen Wright played last night versus our Falcons. We watched that one very closely. And he had 10 carries for 55 yards, 1 touchdown. And his longest carry was 14 yards. And he also had I feel like he caught the ball a couple times, but he looks like he probably could end up being the guy for them. If not, he's going to be 1B or, whatever. But he looks really good. I'm very, very, very proud of him.
And you love to see that after all people that said, oh, this guy runs on light boxes, all this stuff, for him to go out there in the NFL and show, hey, shoot, I mean, us Tennessee fans, we saw it. We see, hey, this is a 6 foot, 215, 220 pound back, 4'3" guy, one cut go type guy, run through tackle type guy, breakaway speed type guy, catch out of backfield type guy, pass protect type guy, a full well-rounded back. And for him to go out there and start to do it, now it's preseason, but to go out there and do it in the NFL, man, I'm just so happy for him. And same for Joe Milton, man. I hope these guys are just the best players in the whole league.
Absolutely. And so we also have to talk about Simo because I think he has 6 home runs through 7 games. Right now he's playing in AA. Would not be surprised if he goes, if he gets that call on up to AAA. He's going to end up making it to the show, P. He's going to make it to the show, I think, before the season starts. I hope, and I'm hoping and praying that every single one of our volunteers goes out and just has the most success, right? Like we're always praying for that, hoping for that. But it makes you feel so good, man. Like you get that warm, fuzzy feeling, seeing them going on out there and daggone balling out. So we also need to talk real quick before we get into the team talk. I want to talk some about David Sanders, just because he has, he has a crystal ball, or not a crystal ball, but he's got a couple RPMs in from a few people. Let's take a look at them. And they're all in for Tennessee. So right here, we can see that Sean Callahan, I think he's from Nebraska, maybe put one in for Tennessee. Chad Simmons, Pete Nakos. But the big one is definitely going to be Steve Wilfong. He dropped a Fong bomb in favor of our volunteers. And I know that everyone saw this. It's been all over social media. But we've known for a long time, just because of our insiders, they do such a just phenomenal job of staying on top of this stuff. But they've been telling us, hey, look, Tennessee remains in a tremendous spot. So that's really big. Just knowing that, hey, we could maybe end up adding a 5-star offensive tackle. And I mean, to me, he looks like a generational guy, P. I always draw this correlation of him. And what's the guy's name for the he was with the Cowboys, now it's with the Jets.
It's not Tyron Jones,
Smith.
is it?
No.
Tyron
Yeah. Tyrone Smith. Yeah, so he's very similar to him, in my opinion. I believe that he graduated in the 2008 class, went on to USC. Now, Tyrone's a little bit taller and all that, but he was pretty, I wouldn't say thin. He was maybe like 6'7", 6'8", maybe like 280. He had abs and all that, but he was intentionally doing it the same way that David Sanders is, so that he could add the right weight inside of a college weight room. And, I think that he's going to be phenomenal. I'm very much looking forward to him and, what he can bring to this team. Now, if we do end up adding him, let me pull this up for y'all real quick. So this is our big board. Some of y'all have seen this, but if we do end up adding David Sanders, we would go up, I believe, just based off of, how I'm calculating things, we would move up to probably number 6. Okay. Maybe number 7, but more than likely we would move up to number 6. And if we add Onis Konabani, I think that, we would be more solid at that number 6 spot. We will not go up over, because Oregon's at number 5 currently. We won't be able to surpass them as far as I can see, just because their average is at like a 92 something. Ours would be at like a 90.6, but that's still good. And P, like, we don't put a whole lot of bearings and stock into, any of these sites, just because we know that there's a ton of politics that goes into all this. But whenever you look at our class from top to bottom, we're going out and getting players that fit what we like to do. And we are developing players at, I feel like, a higher clip than most programs. So I feel like we will end up, ultimately, outside of what On3 says, what 24/7 Sports says, this is a top 5 class. You know what I mean? This class is going to perform like top 5. But P, what are your thoughts just on, potentially landing David Sanders and Onis Konabani?
I think those would be 2 huge additions. Obviously, David Sanders, like you alluded to, man, he's a plug-and-play guy. Comes in, was kind of people were saying needs to gain weight. We're talking about last season. Needs to gain a little weight. He was, I think, listed like 260 or something. Bumps up. He's about 275, 280 now. And like you said, when he gets in the college weight room, it's not going to be anything to put a quick, easy 20, 25, 30 pounds on him of the right type of weight. So now he's 310, 315. And he's grown too. He's like 6'6.5", I think they said. So he's almost 6'7". He's a plug and play guy. Now, is he a day one guy? We'll see. We'll see what we look like on the O-line. And hey, we got a guy named Doug Azutu in this class as well, who I think is a guy that could potentially come in here and compete too. So we got to see. But I mean, I think he's definitely talented enough to do that. We'll see how it plays out. And Onis Konabani, man, he's a long rangey guy. Goes about 6'2", 200 pounds or so. Going to continue to get bigger. Still kind of new to football, so I think adding him would be another huge addition, because he's a very, once again, we'd say it's a lot, a very versatile guy. Can do pretty much anything in the secondary, from safety to star to corner. So we'll kind of see about him. I feel pretty confident about both these guys getting in the boat, and like you said, man, it's going to boost that class up. We don't really care about the final rankings. I think ultimately what you want to look at is as look at your team's roster and how do these pieces fit in. I think you look at the piece that we've added, you can see how each one of those pieces fits into this puzzle, and is it really going to help this team excel in for years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're about to start getting to some chats. I'm checking in right now on the poll. So we have 77% of people who did vote are concerned about the secondary, and we have 12% is concerned about the running backs, 2% is concerned about the offensive line, and 7% is other. Maybe y'all can specify down in the chat what other means. But P, what that tells me is we probably need to go on ahead and switch gears real quick. Let's talk about our defense. Let's talk about this scrimmage. First and foremost, it sounded like Coach Heupel was pleased with what he saw out there. You could tell that he was in a really good mood, joking around with the media members, all that type of stuff. So I think that speaks volumes. But let's go ahead and pull this up real quick. So this is what we know these are the players that we do know were the starters on defense. Hopefully y'all can kind of tell what's going on right here. So at linebacker, we had Jeremiah Thielander, and we also had Caleb Perry. And then at cornerback, we had Ricky Gibson and Jamal McCoy. at both of the safeties, we had Andre Turrentine and Will Brooks. And then at star, we had Christian Harrison. So that's what the starting group looked like. We don't know what it looked like up front, but it also does sound like our front four was really getting some pressure. I know like there was a couple of notes from some people that was actually there at practice, and they said that, well, Dane Davis, who was a starter at right tackle, we'll get to that here in just a second, but they said that James Pierce made him look foolish. I don't think that that's a huge cause for concern, just because, I mean, James Pierce should be making everybody look foolish. Like, we know how good he is. So, but this really sounds like, this was more of a, like depth scrimmage, right? This is more about some of the people that aren't going to be necessarily starters. So, I think for scrimmage one, though, Coach Heupel was very impressed with his depth. But let's talk about this secondary, P. What do you think about just looking at these starters, and not just with the secondary, but also we can kind of touch on linebackers as well?
Well, I think, the elephant in the room, which I don't know, maybe some people might say Will Brooks, but I'd say Christian Harrison at the star. I actually love to see that. I love to see that he's showing up, that he's competing, because I think we know that Boo Carter's a guy. And so if Christian Harrison's the guy that comes in here and hey, it's not just automatically Boo's job. Christian Harrison's right there with him. To me, I think that's a great sign. And he's a guy that obviously his, father, Rodney Harrison, big time NFL guy, I think Hall of Famer. If he's not already, he will be one day.
One day he will be.
Yeah, for sure. So, for him to, I'm sure he's giving them a lot of tidbits. I'm sure that they've been putting in work in the offseason together and stuff like that. So I want to see him do well. So hopefully he makes most of his opportunity. But I think it's great that we're building depth there at that position, because I think Boo Carter's right there with him. But, I was a little surprised to see, Will Brooks starting over Jacoby Thomas. Yeah. And like I said, it could just be like Will Brooks has been there, so we're going to kind of go with the guys that we know what to do or whatever. I don't know. But I think when the season starts, it will be Jacoby Thomas. If not Will Brooks, at least over Andre Turrentine. I think he's the best safety on this team right now. So it's just kind of scratching my head why he's not starting. But sounds like the corners played really well. I think Ricky Gibson, Jamar McCoy, two guys that can play man coverage, willing to come up here and get physical as well. So I feel great about them. That secondary overall athletically looks much better than it did last season. So really felt good about what we heard from Heupel, and just all the notes we've heard from practice or from the scrimmage. And then, T-Lander, Caleb Perry, no real shocker there. Arian Carter probably didn't go. Kenny Peely probably didn't go. So, no real shocker there. These will be the next two up. So, I think this is great to build depth and get these guys ready to go play in the fall.
Yeah, no, so I think that those are excellent points. And that's something, too, P, that I definitely want to touch on to make sure that everyone understands this, because not everyone, like, really understands kind of like how, football, fall camp, all that, all of the offseason stuff actually works. But the way that it does work is, especially now, like whenever you have players transferring in, all that type of stuff, it looks like this first scrimmage, and this is something else that Coach Heupel and really everyone has been talking about. They say, hey, listen, we're going to have to play 16, 17 games this whole season. So I think that they're doing a great job of that pitch count. You don't want to get too many guys, or, you don't want to get your key guys too many reps. You want to build that depth up. It is so important to do that. You have got to build it up, because you're going to need it at some point. It's not like seasons, of old, where you can just kind of slide by with mainly starters. You have to have depth. So I think that that's very important, and that's what we're doing, and that's what we're seeing right here. These players, I would say, outside of, Ricky Gibson and Jamar McCoy, probably not. I wouldn't say that they are surefire starters. Even Andre Turrentine, who we do think will end up starting. But, whenever you look at Christian Harrison and you look at Will Brooks, well, why are they out there getting those first team reps? Well, they're older. They've been in this system longer. They put that time in. They've earned it. So we're going to give them the first shot to prove to us why they should be those starters. Now, what y'all will see is in scrimmage number 2 and 3 and 4, it's going to get a whole lot closer to what the actual starting roster will be. So let's keep that in mind. And,
it's just like NFL preseason. Saying it's like NFL preseason. We didn't see any starting quarterbacks play pretty much, right?
Exactly.
Same deal.
Exactly. It's the exact same thing. So I'm going to get to some of these chats right here real quick. We got Max Stone saying Bull won gold in the Olympics in breakdown. Appreciate that, brother. Right here we got Vol Daddy Dave says, go Big Orange boys. Appreciate y'all joining us. Mike Harmon, what's going on, Mike? He says, hello, Bull. P, let's roll. Let's get it.
What up, baby?
Right here we've got Devontae Bond says, I want to know how was Boo Carter yet. So we're gonna get to that here in just a second. Mike Harmon also saying, good to see this channel growing. I've been hitting you all up on social media. Thank you so much. You're definitely a big part of this growth. And listen, guys, everyone who has been supporting us, y'all are the reason. I'm telling you, I'm not just saying that. Y'all are the reason for our growth, 100%. So thank y'all so much for that. And please continue to like, subscribe, share, all that, comment. That's huge for us. Right here we have TJ Meggs, who says, morning, fellas. Go Big Orange. Morning to you, morning. TJ. Right here we got Cade says, go Big Orange. Love it, Cade. Austin Roller says, when people say they are concerned with the O-line, it's more about the depth and possibly left guard more than the starters. I think that's a great point.
100%.
And we are going to go through every single position group on this team with y'all. So just want to make sure that everyone's voice is heard in this one. I'm about to start a Q&A. Right here, we've got KNX. I think that stands for Knoxville. Travis 80 says, good morning, Vol fans. Good morning to your brother. And we're going to get to this one right here from Harmon. JC Vol says, if the secondary struggles again this year, you can't keep Willie around. Never call for people's job, but it's by far our biggest weakness. Yeah, I don't think that that's going to be a problem this year, and that's good news for all of us as volunteer fans. So let's keep this thing going, P, because I want to talk a little bit more, and y'all have seen this. We're going to go ahead and take this down because y'all kind of know what that looks like at this point. But, P, I want to talk a little bit more about the secondary because, yes, cornerbacks, we feel like it's going to be Ricky Gibson. It's going to be Jermon McCoy as the starters there. It sounds like they both played really well. Coach Heupel kind of highlighted them and said, man, look, that looks great. He said especially early on. He also talked about, and if y'all can hear, there's a guy here cutting the grass right now. So hopefully it's not too loud for y'all. But they also just talked about the defense, or Coach Heupel talked about the defense being very physical. I think that that's big. But let's talk a little bit more about the safety and the star position because Christian Harrison can definitely go there. We think that Christian Charles looks good there. Boo Carter, obviously, is who I believe they want to play there because he has the most upside. The biggest thing playing at that position is going to be, can you figure out those plays? And obviously, you can kind of put some different bodies out there. It doesn't necessarily have to be a pure nickel cornerback. It could be more of a safety body. It could be more of a linebacker body. So we can mix and match. We can do a whole lot of different things. Coach Heupel also touched on that. And then just as far as the safeties, we kind of touched on that briefly. Andre Turrentine, we love John Slaughter, and we think that Kobe Thomas, those three would probably be your most talented safeties. And, Will Brooks can also play for you. He spent a whole lot of time inside of the system. But is he going to be a guy that you would trust out there in coverage if he is starting? All of a sudden, I mean, it's going to be a whole lot more show coverage. I think won't be as much man-to-man coverage. But let's just kind of talk about that. Let's talk about the star. Let's talk about the safety. Really more so star, P. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think, Boo Carter's the guy that they want to see play there. I think just from what I saw in the spring game, his coverage ability or his cover ability, however you want to say that word, is, I mean, it's some of the best in the whole secondary, whether it's a corner or whatever. I mean, he sticks to his man like glue. We see that he's willing, he's physical, he's aggressive, gets up in the box. Go look at his high school film at Bradley Central. I mean, he's down in the box, flying downhill. So, I mean, I think he's a guy that likely will be the starter eventually, whether it's game one, whether it's by the end of the season. But he's going to be a very special player for us. I think, at that star position. But Christian Harrison's a guy, I like him as well. I think he's got some good size. And, I think he's willing to be physical as well. So it's going to be an interesting battle there. Jalen McMurray, I think, may be your third option, if not Christian Charles. So we have several guys that are versatile that can potentially fill into that role there. And then at safety, I mean, if I had to bet money, I'd say it's Andre Turrentine, Jacoby Thomas. Those would be your starters week one. With the opportunity for Will Brooks. And Will Brooks also factors in a star as well, I think. He could potentially play that as well.
1,000%.
But, probably be Will Brooks will be your third option. And then I think they're going to put John Slaughter as that fourth option. Now, I would do it the way you said. I'd probably have John Slaughter, Jacoby Thomas, and probably Boo at my star. Those would be my three kind of middle DB guys there. But I think another thing we can't gloss over is, God forbid, say Ricky Gibson or Jermon McCoy goes down, lose the helmet or something.
Knock on wood. Yeah.
Who's the first corner off the bench? Or both of them go to who's our next two corners? I think is a huge question. Nobody's really talking about.
Yeah, so I would say that Jalen for sure is going to be one of them, and he is a little bit banged up. And really, I mean, I would say almost all the players that are limited, we're just trying to get them ready for the actual season, right? It's kind of like back to the point about it's a long season, it's a grind, and I think that a big part of the reason that Coach Heupel was so happy and so pleased is that he knows, hey, we got plenty of depth. So if a player has to, maybe take 1 week off, especially if we win those first 4 games, Pete, all of a sudden you've got a lot more, I think, leeway. And, some of these lesser games where you can let some other people play. But anyway, my whole point in saying that is Jalen is a guy that we trust once he's fully healthy. He should be able to come in there and play. And it also sounds like Jordan Matthews looked really good. Like hearing that he made a play on a like fade route or something, that makes me feel great because that was my only question mark with him is, can he stay on top of the routes? Because we're seeing a whole lot, some of these clips, he's getting beat deep. But now that he's figured that part of it out, I mean, listen, he's got to be our tallest, maybe longest cornerback feet, and he's got the skill set. He is a dog.
Well,
now that he's got that together, I think we're going to be fine. Go ahead.
He's the highest rated DB, out of high school, I think, in the whole secondary, safety, corner, wherever. So, I mean, he was a highly rated recruit. So, it just takes some guys, a year or two to really get their feet under them. But yeah, he's a guy, could potentially pop and be really good for us.
Yeah, I mean, him if he steps up and has a really big year, all of a sudden, I mean, this team looks really dangerous. And again, we've got such a great pass rush. At least we are anticipating that that's what's going to happen. With a great pass rush, it works hand in hand with your secondary, with your pass coverage, all that. So, I mean, just imagine that it's going to be primarily, I would say, 3-step drops. The ball's got to come out of the quarterback's hands very, very quickly because we've got guys all the way across the board coming at you in waves. You got to get it out of your hands. And if not, then they have to max protect. And then at that point, if we're playing zone or, whatever, we've got more people dedicated to pass coverage than they're sending out for the passes. So it works hand in hand. I think that we will be fine. I definitely get why everyone or why some people are, concerned about that. But I think that at the end of the day, we're going to be just fine right there. Now, Pete, let's talk a little bit more about those linebackers. I'm going to bring this right back up because it was Jeremiah T-Lander and it was Caleb Perry as the starters. And it sounds like, on the opposite side of the ball, the running backs looked pretty good. Now, I don't know how good they actually looked, but it sounds like Coach Heupel was pleased with them. How much of that would you put on? I mean, and of course, we're not seeing it. We have to speculate. How much would you put on our linebacking core? And how much of that is the safeties not being in the right spots filling? How much of it is on the, D-line? You know what I mean? But what do you think about our linebacker room?
I think they're going to be solid. Obviously T-Lander's a guy we're expecting a huge year from. We've heard some good things about Caleb Perry as well. He looks good out there at number 8. I mean, I was looking through some of the photos from the scrimmage, and he was kind of standing around like the huddle or whatever. And he's tall, man. I don't know how tall he's listed, but he's towering over guys. He's a big guy, and we've said this before. Just look at the sheer numbers, weight room numbers. The agility, speed, the whole deal. He's in the top like 1% on this roster. You know what I mean? Like he's probably like a 4.4, 4.5 guy. Probably is one of the strongest guys in all the lifts. I mean, he's very talented. Now, can he put it together? Talked about Jordan Matthews. Is he a guy that, maybe it's taking him a couple years to get his feet wet? He's been on special teams. He got a few more kind of defensive reps last season. Does he take a big step? Because I think people kind of gloss over him a little bit. I know I kind of do. I kind of gloss over him. I go straight to Evan Spillman, kind of some of those guys. But he's a guy. What if he has a big time light bulb go off moment, and he's up there with the T-Landers, the Arion Carters? There he is. Yep. See, I mean, he's a good-looking kid, man. By gosh, looks like he's about 6'5" right there.
Yeah, so, all right, so listen. So, number 8 is Caleb Perry. Number 1 is Ricky Gibson. Ricky Gibson is like 6'1", and you can see how big Caleb Perry is. That is a big young man, and he is very athletic, Pete, like you was just saying. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I'm glad you brought that up, man. So, excited about him, and, didn't even talk about John Smith, who I think's come a long way as well. He's looked good in a couple clips I've seen of him in practice. And, of course, Evan Spillman, that man, I mean, he's a guy that's just chomping at the bit, waiting for somebody to make a mistake, give him a chance to get in. Because he's a guy, I think once he gets his chance, he may make a couple mistakes here and there, but it's going to be tough to get him back off the field if he gets on that field. And then the guy I've been waiting to hear about, Jordan Burns, still haven't heard a peep about him. Is he there?
He has not practiced at all. So I am a little bit concerned about that. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with him, but that does sound like he's probably dealing with – I don't want to put it out there because, guys, listen, we are speculating. We don't know this for sure, so don't take it and say that he is injured. But I feel like whatever he's dealing with, for him to have not even made it out onto the field, I mean, it might kind of be something that I don't know. It might have him out for some time. I don't know if we'll see him throughout all of fall camp. Now, I'm not hoping or wishing or praying that that's going to happen by any means. We want to see him out there, but that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah. So hopefully he's okay. Whether it's anything, off the field related or whatever, hopefully he's fine. And then we don't talk about Keenan Peely and Arion Carter, who you figure are going to be your guys. I mean, those guys both look great. So, I think take it easy on them. Like you said, ramp them up. Maybe scrimmage 2 or 3, we see those guys. Keenan Peely, I mean, I don't know if we ever get to see him in the scrimmage. I mean, you just want to be careful with him and just get him to freaking Saturday because, man, we missed him last year big time. So, I'm excited, man. It's a good room, a deep room.
Absolutely. So, you know what? It's funny, P, that you had brought that up about not necessarily seeing Keenan Peely. Something else that I took away from hearing Coach Heupel speak is that, he said, we have to get guys reps. He said it might not necessarily be in a scrimmage setting. So I think that guys like John Campbell, who they have had limited with no injury or nothing like that, they've held him out. I think that Andre Carrick has got to get some reps. I don't think that you could have a real left guard competition if he doesn't get some scrimmage reps. Like, you got to get him out there. So I think that he'll go at some point. But Keenan Peely could be another one. I mean, he's played so much football. Why? I mean, you don't need to. I mean, yeah, he is kind of coming off of an injury, but you really don't need to get out there. Like, just stay. Yeah. And you know what, P, as crazy as this might sound, he'd be very limited versus UT Chattanooga, right? He'd be very, very limited.
Let's get him to a real team this year. You know what I mean?
Oh gosh, he would be very limited. And that's the other thing, kind of going back to the safeties and the secondary, and it's really everybody. I don't even think that our starting lineup versus UT Chat is going to be the same versus what we see at NC State. Like, I think that you understand it. It's a long season, so you don't have to put guys out there. But yeah, I think that room is extremely, extremely deep. We've got a lot of guys that we most definitely trust. Now, I want to take a look. Actually, you know what? Let's get to some chats because I want to hear what everyone else has to say. What are y'all's thoughts and concerns? We got to get to you. We got to figure it out. All right, so right here we've got from Andrell Genhard. I apologize if I pronounced your name incorrectly. Says O-line depth is also a concern. Other SEC teams also have really good D-lines. So I'm going to say this, and I most definitely see where you're coming from. Number one, there is not an SEC team or the only other team maybe in the country that could possibly match how much depth we have on our defensive line is Ohio State. Nobody else, I don't think, is even close. Number two, as far as offensive line depth, I think that we have one of the deeper offensive lines in this league, probably in this country. Now, Georgia has really good bodies, right? I mean, they've got a whole lot of talent. Alabama also has stockpile talent. I like what Texas has as far as their starters. But whenever you talk about depth, because Larry Johnson is a guy, P, that I feel like has come along, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. But I think that we've got good depth at the tackle positions. But at guard, I mean, we've got 4 to 5 deep, or not 4 to 5 deep, but we've got 4 to 5 guys that I feel like can play guard at a high enough level to compete in this league. But what are your thoughts on that, P?
Yeah, I mean, I think the talent is definitely in the room. I think the biggest thing is how much proven depth is there. I mean, outside of Lampley and Dane Davis, Carrick, I guess you throw him in there. How many of those guys have really played real football? Not a ton of them. So I think that's but I think from what we've seen, what we've heard, like you said, Larry Johnson looks good. We have faith in some of those guys, on the interior as well. But I can understand why someone would say that, depth's concern, because that's also kind of my concern too with them is, God forbid we have like 2 or 3 guys out at one time, which, I mean, heck, if any line deals with that, that's going to be a concern. I mean, come on.
That's the thing. Yeah. That's the thing is because, I mean, what offensive line has a whole lot of experience? We have the most, I don't want to say this wrong, but we've got one of the more experienced offensive lines in this entire league. I mean, we've got guys that are 5th, 6th, 7th year seniors. Okay,
yeah,
we've got a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like what? Like Dane Davis is what? This is his 5th or 6th season, right? He's a backup. Lampley. Jackson Lampley, same thing, right? Andre Carrick, 5th, 6th year. So, I mean, we've got. I think that we have a lot more veteran-led depth than people realize. And we love what we have underneath. Like we love what we have behind that with some younger guys, with some of those underclassmen. So I guess that's what my point is that it's never going to be perfect for anybody's team. I think a lot of times we look at UGA and Alabama or Oregon or, whoever, we say, oh, they've got this, they've got that. But really, football is all about, you've got to have really good starters, and you've got to have at least one deep behind them. Not many people have three deep. I think at some positions on that offensive line, we are three deep, probably outside of maybe center. But I trust our center position more than we did last season, P.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Because we have true centers there now.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I agree. Yeah, I agree. Especially as we get further in the season, I think William Satterwhite has time to come along. You feel more comfortable with him going out there. And then, of course, we're so versatile. Just like every position group, we got guys that could plug in, could switch into that position as well. So, yeah, I definitely feel good about it overall.
Let me get to this one right here. This is from Brian Nunley, says, don't forget about Cam Sparks. So Cam Sparks, I don't think that he's going to be joining us in this class. For whatever reason, we kind of backed off of him months ago. I'm not quite sure what it is because I love his film. And, I don't see it. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's something that the insiders and all that just don't want to talk about. But there's something there just because it seems like a lot of teams have kind of backed off him. So, I'm wishing him the absolute best. But, yeah, he looks like a stud to me on film. Let me get to a few more of these right here. We've got Devontae Bond says Tennessee. Okay, so he's talking about what we just talked about right here. Timmy G, what's going on? Timmy G, what's up, brother? And Timmy G says, a little late, but I'm here. Go Big Orange. Appreciate you for joining us, Timmy G. Definitely a friend of the channel. Also, y'all, listen, on our Patreon, we are about to start it up where we are going to just try to find a way to select people to join us on these live streams for pregame shows, postgame shows. We'll probably have, different people for the pregame, different people for the postgame every single week. We would love for y'all to join us. So just make sure that you do go on over there to Patreon. You can join over there for as little as $1, but you can also get a 7-day free trial. Now, right here, we've got Austin Roller says, so you both think Slaughter is going to take the starting job from Turntime? No. No, so. I didn't say that. Pete, did you say that?
No, but now we do. Well, I don't know about you. I speak for myself. I do think he is more talented, and if I were making the call, he'd be starting for me. But I don't see practice, but I think just talent wise, I do think he is better.
Yeah. So I think the Turntime has kind of come away. So my whole deal, P. Whenever I say, hey, I would prefer for John Slaughter to be out there, it's all about the physicality because playing safety. You've got to be able to fill those lanes and all that type of stuff. You got to be very physical, especially in this league. You have to be very fearless. And the one game that put a bad taste in my mouth with Andre was versus UGA. He was, turning it down several times. But he did kind of make up for it after that. So whenever we talk about who we want to see starting, we're thinking about, okay, how are they going to fare versus the UGAs, versus the Bamas, versus the playoff teams? It's not about how they're going to play versus, South Carolina. And you know what I mean? We expect that. We're 4 or 5 deep to put people out there to, play well versus them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good point. Everything that we're talking about depth and, what guys can do. We're talking about, just like you said, play against playoff caliber teams. Exactly. We'll be fine against the scrub teams. We're talking about teams that got a chance to compete for something. Everything we say is thinking about that in mind. Just put that out there.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get to some more, man. I absolutely love this. I love y'all's questions. Y'all have really good questions. Right here from Matt Stone. He's saying Brazel our new Hyatt. Whoa. I think that all right. So go ahead.
I would say it's looking. Him and Nico seem to obviously have a connection. You can't say enough about the connection, the rapport a quarterback has with a receiver. If you just feel comfortable going to a guy, you're going to go to that guy, and he seems to be comfortable going to Chris Brazel. He's big, rangy, fast. I think he could be a guy that pops and has a big year, honestly.
Yeah, so I think that Chris Brazel, and I want to be careful. I don't mean this. I think that he is going to be what we had kind of hoped for out of Dante Thornton, to start off last year. That we know that Dante Thornton is, and he showed us that towards the end of last year. I think that that's what we're seeing there. Also, speaking of Dante Thornton, I'm hoping that he's got to get back healthy. He's got to get back on the field but I don't want for him to just kind of get like washed away, right? Because it does sound like Chris Brazzell right now is probably ahead of him. But just as far as will Chris Brazzell be the new Hyatt? Obviously, Hyatt had a season that would be so hard to replicate, especially with so much depth on this team. But will he make plays like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, will he? Yeah, I think that he will be a big time playmaker, just like that. For sure.
I think the advantage he has is he's bigger than Hyatt, like taller.
Yeah.
He's not as fast, but I think we'll see him make more of those kind of highlight reel type catches, whereas Hyatt was typically just wide open because of speed and we schemed him open. I think Brazzell will make more contested, tough catches.
Yeah, I mean, Brazzell's going to be mossing people. You know what I'm saying? Because he's got that, he's got that tall, long, and then he looks a little bit thin, but you can just tell, P, that he is strong. Like I was watching him block, and I mean, it was like away from his body, all hands, control. He is a very, very strong player. So I'm excited about him. I'm excited about the entire wide receiver core. Let's go on ahead and let's flip the page to the offense, though, because I want to talk. I mean, we did talk a little bit. So this is what the starting offensive line was in this game. We have Larry Johnson at left tackle. We have Jackson Lampley at left guard. Cooper Mays was starting at center. Javonte Spraggins was at right guard. And then we had Dane Davis starting at right tackle. Of course, Nico was the starter at quarterback. And Deshaun Bishop was the starter at running back. That's all that we know of for sure as far as who are the starters. But, P, the number one thing, I think actually the first thing that Coach Heupel said in talking about the team was about Deshaun Bishop. He said, I don't remember exactly what he said, but basically that, he played well. He does a good job with his pad level, and he runs hard. He talked about him doing a good job of setting up his blockers and having good vision, things like that. That should be very, encouraging to us as Tennessee fans, because we're asking, who's going to be the guy right behind Dylan Sampson come week one? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Bishop? Is it going to be Keith? Sounds like right now it's going to be Bishop. But, P, what do you think, just kind of like on what you heard from Coach Heupel talking about Bishop?
Yeah, I love to hear what he said about him, setting up his blocks, cutting off his blocks. I mean, as a running back, it seems very natural, but you watch these guys play, it's not natural. You don't see a lot of guys doing it. You'll see guys kind of outrun their blocks, or they'll just kind of run right into a defender. But it sounds like Deshaun Bishop has a great feel for being patient, letting his blocks develop, and get up on the guy they got to go block, and that creates holes for you. So the fact that he can do that, man, he's a guy. You talked about it whenever we first signed him. He's a guy that people can't sleep on this guy. He's a hard-nosed worker. He wants to be here in Knoxville, and I think he's going to be a guy that, he's going to keep kind of sticking around and kind of keeps nipping at your heels. Eventually, he'll get his shot, and I think he'll do very, very well. So definitely excited about him, man. I think he's going to have a big year. It's Peyton Lewis, it's Deshaun Bishop, and it kind of, from what I've been hearing, people don't talk enough about Khalifa Keith, so I don't know how he's doing, but he looks good from what we've seen, but I don't know. I just haven't heard a ton about him, so it is a little bit concerning for me with Keith.
Yeah, that was going to be my next point, just because you would love to have heard something about him. I think that, like you said, P, he looks the part. We really need that kind of like short yardage back. But we will see. I mean, maybe he's just a guy, because really, like, at some point in that, in that presser, Coach Heupel was just kind of answering the questions that was asked to him, and he didn't really go out of his way to kind of bring up anybody that wasn't brought up to him. So that could be a big part of it. I do think that Keith is going to contribute this season, and I'm just going to claim that he's going to have a really, really good year for us. Now, talking about, Peyton Lewis, what did you kind of take away from what Heupel said about him? And listen, y'all, we do see those chats coming in. We're about to get to that here in just a minute, but we're going to finish up with the running backs. Then we're going to get to those chats, kind of talk about that. Then we'll go on to the next group. But, Pete, what did you think in, hearing what Coach Heupel had to say about Peyton Lewis?
I honestly can't remember what he said about him. But I know just overall he's been a guy that's he's impressed me, man. I think for him it's just going to be continuing to learn the offense, pick up his pass pro. But I think physically, he's as gifted as anybody in that room, and that's including Cam Selton, who's 6'2", 220, 4'2" guy. He's right there with him. So he can have a breakout year. We have about 3 guys that they can just have absolute monster years in that running back room, and Peyton Lewis is definitely one of them.
Yeah, obviously, hopefully they will all get an opportunity to get utilized, because last season we really only rotated 3. But I think now we have enough, right? I think that we have enough now that maybe we can rotate even more than that. And I feel like the staff gets it because, again, we keep on talking about this, but the season is so long. You have got to get experience. You've got to build depth early and often if you want to be a championship team. If you want to make that push inside of the playoffs, whenever, everyone's kind of broken down, you got to share some of that load. So I think that we've got plenty of bodies in there, P, that we trust. Now, everyone's going to be asking about Cam Selden. When's he going to be back? In my opinion, P, I think that he will be ready by week 1. I don't know if he plays versus UT Chattanooga, but I would say probably week 2, we will see Cam Selden come out for his first time this season. And I think, he looks like he's chomping at the bit, P.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm going to get to this one real quick because I did see it come up. This is from Matt Stone. He's asking, is Selden really a 4.2 guy? He absolutely is. He is a legitimate track guy. And Peyton Lewis is also a legitimate track guy. I think that both of those guys won state or, they went to state. So that should tell you a whole lot about their speed. Along with that size, should be absolutely phenomenal. Mm-hmm. We have to put it all together, though. Like, we have to see them go out there and do it when it counts. That's going to be the biggest thing. All right, we're going to get to a couple of chats right here. So right here we have Austin Rowland asking, is the star used more in coverage or does it need to be a more physical run-stopping guy? P, would you like to answer this?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, in an ideal world, they can do both at a high level. But if you had to pick one, I'll say you want more of a guy that can cover in the pass game. Because otherwise, if you're more worried about stopping the run, you probably go with the typical 4-3 or a 3-4 look. You would get out of your nickel or your star package. So you want a guy that can cover, which is probably the hardest position to cover from in that slot position because you're covering the slot and the guy has a two-way go, and it's usually the smaller, quicker guys that are tougher to stick with. So you definitely want a guy that can cover. You wouldn't just put like a Caleb Perry out there. You put a guy that can cover, but you do want a guy that can come up. Ideally, that can be physical, take on blocks, and make plays in the run game, and even rush the passer from time to time too. So you want to. That's why we keep saying it's probably the toughest position on that defense. You got to be able to do it all at that position.
You have to be able to do a ton, and so that just kind of going back to Boo. We think that he's physically capable of doing all of that. Now, the only thing is sometimes you will have to get matched up versus a tight end, and I think that Boo's listed at like just shy of 6 feet tall. So. Can he still cover those guys that are 6'5", 6'6"? Sure he can, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So that's where, I think that's where you have to look at the different personnel. Like, football is so much chess, and it is a very simple game, but it can also be very complicated. So that's why these coaches on this level get paid so much money, because you have to kind of mix and match and know when and where to run different coverages and all that type of stuff. But we do think that Boo is a guy that can come out there, and as long as he understands what to do, then he can start. He can play at a high level in this league. So we feel good about that. When we've got even more bodies. So we feel really good about the star position.
It's a great question, though.
Yeah, that was an excellent question. Right here we got my dog, G. White. What's going on? He says, excellent. What's up, G. White? He says, I'm late. My bad. You all good, brother. Appreciate you for joining us. And then Bill Inslee says, O-line. I think he's saying maybe his biggest concern is the O-line. Let's see what G. White had to say right here. He says, I feel like with our experience and depth on our lines, we should be able to push anyone around, UGA included. I have to agree with you. And see, that's listen, G, that is the hot take. That's the hot take that people are just not ready for. People cannot fathom, Georgia that has had so much talent for, like decades. They've been a top, I would say at least top 5 roster for at least a decade. Within the past 5 to 7 years, they've been like a top 3 roster. They only have 2 national titles to show from it. My whole point in saying that is Coach Heupel gets more out of less, right? He's going to get a whole lot more out of less. So now that we do have that depth, we've got those veterans, those guys that are true dogs. I feel like, especially on defense, we will push them around. Now, when we do it with our offensive line, if we do it with our offensive line, that game's going to get out of hand.
Yeah,
that's because I don't necessarily see that happening. I think that we'll hold up versus them, but as far as pushing them around, I don't know.
Yeah, we might. You got to remember, I don't know exactly who they got, but I know they ain't as old as we are up front. We got some grown men up there.
Grown man strength.
Whole extra year in that weight room, whole extra year in that, training program. And hey, and most of these guys have seen those guys. Okay, Coop, Spraggs, Campbell, heck, Lampley, Dane Davis. I don't think Lance Hurt's in them yet, but the rest of those guys, they've seen them. So they already know who the heck those guys are. they've been chomping at the bit. And I know we always get fired up when we bring up those guys, but I'm going to tell you, we've seen those guys, and it's going to be a much different ball game in Athens. We can't wait for it.
Hey, I can't wait. And then, too, you know what? Everyone keeps on saying, whenever someone's asked, what game are you most looking forward to? Everyone says, we can't wait to go down to Athens. We can't wait. I'm telling you, it's coming. Let me get to this right here, Pete. We have a new member of the channel, Chris Daniels. Thank you so much for becoming a member of this channel. We appreciate all of the support from everybody. And if y'all just joining us, please do make sure to like and subscribe. You can become a member by clicking that join button just below this video. And you can also donate to the channel by scanning the Cash App QR code with your smartphone. We are going to get to, actually, Pete, you know what? We're going to get to some more chats here in just a minute. But I also want to talk a little bit more, about the rest of our team, right? Because tight ends was a group that Coach Heupel brought up. So, Pete, I'm going to let you take that away. I gotta do some things right here. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take that.
The tight end room, man, it's a room that's come such a long way since Heupel's been here. You think back when he first came, we had 2 guys on the whole roster. Okay, it was Princeton Fant and it was Jacob Warren. And, fortunately, we had those guys for a couple of years. Jacob Warren, I think, stayed for 3 years with Heupel. But now, all of a sudden, that room's transformed. We have 3 guys that I think, from just an overall ability perspective, are past Princeton Fant and Jacob Warren. I think we got 3 of those guys now. Oh, and, of course, we had Callum McCassels last year, who was very good for us. But I think that room this year, man, with Holden Stays, with Ethan Davis, with Miles Kitselman, you have 3 different types of, 3 different guys. Ethan Davis is more of your, hey, this is our vertical threat, receiving tight end, but, hey, he's put on the weight. And you heard him they talking about it. He took it personal last year. He wanted to go block some guys, was getting pushed around. He said it, man, I'll take that personal. And he went and he put on about 20 pounds off season, got stronger. So he's the guy getting here, ready and willing to block. Then you look at Holden Stays, kind of your blend between Ethan and Miles Kitselman. Can block, can catch, can do it all, pretty well. He looks big out there. I don't know what, I think he's listed about around 250. I think he's a bigger buy than Ethan Davis, and he's a guy that I think will give us some good versatility as well. And then Miles Kitselman, the Raleigh old veteran, played at Bama, been all over the place. As a guy's coming in here, has shown that he can catch out of the back, or can run routes, get open, catch the ball, do things in the pass game. But also, I think he's going to be a really good blocker for us. And we haven't even talked about the guys behind them, who I always get their names, but those guys too are
Browder.
Yeah, Browder, and there's another guy too. There's 2 of them that are
Schaus,
maybe, but they're both like 6'8", 6'7", and I mean they both look good too. So I mean, Alec Aben's done a great job with that room. We got more guys coming in, and just couldn't be happier to have him here, man. He's doing a great job, and I think he's going to be one of the next big names, in the coaching world, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. So trying to navigate through all this stuff. All right, so. I think that the tight end room, I think that it's absolutely incredible. I mean, really, like, whenever you talk about guys like, Ethan Davis, for sure, him being one, like you just spoke on, understanding that, hey, football's a little bit different from basketball. So yeah, I mean, you have to come with a whole lot more. And so that was big, just understanding that really, you have to come with it 110% on every single play. I think that he's going to have a really, really big year. Holden Stays has looked phenomenal. I think that really everyone inside of that room, I mean, we've got 3-4 guys. I want to see Cole Harrison. I think that he does have a chance this season, maybe in some mop-up duty, to get out there and, maybe play some for us. But we will see.
Yeah,
we will see what happens.
I think it's going to be key. I think hey, you want to see Ethan Davis stay healthy, really all those guys. But I really want to see Ethan Davis have a full season, because I think he can be. And from all the notes we heard from practice, I mean, anyone who was there who was giving notes, I mean, you hear these guys talking about Ethan Davis looks special. He's a playmaker, all this stuff. And these are all things that we saw in his high school film, and we even saw in glimpses last year. Was against UConn, whoever he got in against, had a couple nice catches, but he just couldn't get the blocking part down, so couldn't really play like he needed to. But, man, if he can stay on the field and be an every down type of guy, he can be one of the best players in this whole country.
He's going to be absolutely unreal. And, I mean, it's such a big part of our offense too. So we've never had a room that's that deep. But I want to see more of, because I don't know if Holden Stays played. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't remember. I mean, maybe he did, because Coach Heupel did say, I mean, he had singled out Ethan Davis, but I don't know if Holden Stays actually played in the game. But I think that Miles Kitselman did. So, I mean, we just have to, we have to see what happens throughout all the camp. But I think that that's going to make such a huge difference in this entire game, not just for passing, but I think more specifically for the run game. It opens up even more because you can spread out. You have so many passing threats that, I mean, dude, I don't know what you can do to stop an offense like this. So I'm very, very, I'm very excited about that. And P, you know what? We didn't really talk about our defensive line very much, just because we don't know who the starters were. But we talked some about James Pierce kind of getting the best of Dane Davis. But what do you think about that group just as a whole? I think we can kind of talk about that some.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big time group. Everybody knows it. I mean, deep across the board. I mean, you got about what? You're just talking on the interior. I mean, who's your first two? Friggin' Big O, probably Bryson Eason. From what I've seen in a couple of clips that we find in practice, here and there when they're going live, I mean, gosh dang, Omar Norman Lott, he looks like he's due to have one of the biggest seasons we've had here in a long, long time. Quiet as kept. Nobody's talking about him. Everybody's talking about James Pierce. Hey, Omar Norman Lott, hey, we're saying it right now, guys, okay? He stays healthy, the whole deal. I mean, watch out for him, okay? He looks unblockable right now. Big E, Elijah Simmons, he's my favorite guy. I love him. Freaking David Hobbs. I mean, gosh, dog, Jackson Moy. I mean, that interior,
it's crazy.
I know we talk about it all the time on here, but I mean, gosh, I mean, it's beautiful to see the depth that we built there. And then you start spreading out to the Leos, you go James Pierce, you go that whole deal. I mean, you got about 5 body types that are exactly the same, that each have the same amount of upside. And hey, we're throwing Emmanuel Okoye in there too, because he looks good from the clips we see. 6'5", 245. I mean, he looks dang good. And then
he might actually be. I think he's bigger than that. P. I mean, he looks like he's bigger than he's bigger than 245 because he was 245 in spring, but he's grown significantly. I think he might be about 6'6", 265 at this point. He looks legit. And he's still very explosive.
He looks legit. Like he really does. I know people say, "Oh, you're crazy." No, he actually looks. Don't be surprised by the end of the year he's getting in and starting to do it. I know we got so many guys, but he is another one that is right there with all those guys, honestly, from what I can see. And then you look at the strong side. I mean, gosh, who is it? Is it Dominic Bailey, who I went back and watched the Iowa game. I saw a lot from him that I actually really liked, and I think he's a guy that's due for a big year. You look at freaking Tyree West, another guy due for a big year. Looks like he's kind of, shaped his body up. He looks like he's more explosive, ready to get after it. Tyree Weathersby's a guy who I think is right now, from what Rodney Garner said, just trying to read between the lines, as much as we like him, I think he's 4th right now behind Jason Jenkins. So, I mean, guys, and here you guys know I feel about Tyree Weathersby. He may be the best one in the whole room, and he's 4th. So that just tells you all I didn't know about that room right now.
I mean, it's 100% loaded. So, I mean, I don't think that we're going to have any problem. We touched on it just a little bit, just about how, we will see a whole lot of pressure, and that's going to change up, how we have to play in coverage. But I think we're going to have a whole lot of turnovers because of that. But I mean, it's going to be a very, very fun year based off.
And then you look at the friendly brotherly competition between James Pierce and Joshua Josephs. I think Joshua Josephs wants to try to one up him from last year. So now you got those two going at it. I mean, Caleb Herring said, "Oh, hey, what about me?" Oh, Jordan Ross says, "Hey, I'm a true freshman. What about me?" I mean, it's gonna get nasty. I can't wait to see how creative Tim Banks is getting those guys on the field.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible. So right here we have Matt Adams says, "Do you think Lance Hurd could be the next Trey Smith?" So I mean, those are big shoes to fill for sure.
That's a tall order. That's a tall.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, those are some really big shoes to fill. I think that he's going to be a really, really good player. We have to see how he kind of fits into this offense first. I think that's going to be that's my biggest question mark about Lance Hurd at this point is how does he deal with the up tempo? Is he going to be in shape? Which it looks like he's gotten in better shape from spring, but that's going to be my biggest question with him. But just as far as all the tools, does he have the tools to be that? He absolutely does. 100% does. And I think that he could be very special, especially playing with an offensive line that's very consistent this season. Now, what does the offensive line look like next year? Because you have to be consistent. You have to do it over a couple of years to be, like a Trey Smith. But I definitely love that question. Right here, G. White says, we seen Auburn push them around last year. Why not us? That's a big fact. They most definitely did. So, and he's talking about Georgia. So Auburn did it. I mean, really, there were several teams that I feel like for the first half, they kind of did that. Like they were pushing them around up front. But the thing about Georgia before was they didn't play anyone with as much depth as them outside of Alabama. And as soon as they did play up against a team with that much depth, they lost. So I think that this season that they had to go to Tuscaloosa, they have to go to Austin, they have to go to Oxford. I mean, those could be 3 losses. And then they see Ole Miss the week before they get us in Athens. So I mean, I think that they're going to lose a couple of games. We're starting to hear more and more people kind of saying that now, because as you look at the schedule, you understand, yeah, these teams have gotten deeper and you have to go there and play. Georgia's never done this before. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of shaping up like they're about to lose. So I definitely think that we could get them. And then right here, my dog LD says, I'm here. What's going on, LD?
What up, baby?
And then we got Eric. Eric says, is Samson hurt? No, Samson's not hurt, but we're going to leave him out until we absolutely, I mean, there's no need, because he's a veteran playing running back. You don't want him to, get kind of banged up or get injured, God forbid. Put him out in the scrimmage where we know he's running back number 1. He does not need to prove a thing.
So kind of going off that, I know we hear the Volcois crew kind of talking about Jalen Wright. I think not last season, but the season before, I think he had some fumbles and stuff. And they said part of the reason they thought he had those fumbles was because he didn't really get any contact. I think he had like an injury or something. So I mean, do you think that is important for a running back? Or do you think Samson needs to get some live reps before we get to?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think he needs to get some, but not this early in fall camp. I think that whenever he does get some live reps, it needs to be very, very. I don't even know if he even needs to get real scrimmage reps, honestly speaking. I mean, maybe some, but not very many. But I understand that part of it. You have to get some live reps, but it's got to be. I mean, it's got to be in a certain type of a situation. You just don't want to throw him up just because. I mean, I almost don't even want to talk about it, but I mean, that would be really big, right? Like we need him. He's the only real veteran inside of that room. So we got to be careful with him. But I think that was a great question, though. Sure. Let's get to this right here. Another one from G. He says, I know our guys hate and violence on their minds. LOL. We might. He's still talking about that. Yeah. So I think so. We got some dogs up front.
Right.
LD says that he can't wait for when Bama comes to town. That's going to be another one. So anytime that we play up against Alabama, especially once we get them in Knoxville, that's big. I feel good about that, but I just don't think that they're the same team. Just from what I've seen, obviously it's limited clips in spring practice and fall camp, but they don't have that same type of dog to them that you used to see up under Saban. Now I'm seeing Tennessee has a whole lot more of that, where it's every single rep, boom, boom, boom. Like you can just tell it's a strain on every single rep. Alabama just does not have that.
Wow, that's interesting, because I haven't seen any of their clips. So that's because I was gonna say I haven't seen them, but it looks like you've actually watched them and seen, because I mean we kind of know how they looked back with Saban. Yeah. I mean you knew what you were looking at. You're looking at a freaking championship caliber team. So you're saying that wow, yeah, but you're saying they don't look that way anymore. Like they don't look quite that level.
No. Listen, I mean, and look, everyone, y'all are free. Just go and watch it. Like you can watch YouTube videos from last season and then watch them from this season. And you don't even have to, you'll be able to tell the difference very, very quickly, very easily. Their practices now is super laid back, which could actually be a positive thing sometimes, right? Sometimes maybe things are too strict, but that pop, that burst is not there. Like whenever Saban was there, it was surgical. Now they do still have some phenomenal athletes. I'm going through watching, I saw several, I'm like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? Like you see several guys, like I was watching their backers doing some drills and I said, oh my goodness. I mean, they are explosive, but I mean, football is different because you have to play with that edge. You can be the best athlete in the whole world. If you don't play with that dog, I mean, on Saturdays in the SEC, it's gonna be tough for you to win. It's gonna be real tough. Let's see what my dog Detailer has said. Says Kirby thinks he can be Saban by recruiting his way to the Hall of Fame. Problem is Saban was a great on-field coach too. Kirby is not. Big facts. A lot of folks don't realize that. Kirby is a solid coach. I mean, he's going to have his team ready. They're going to be fundamentally sound. But as far as if you can out-scheme him, he has no answer for it. And Saban would figure it out, right? Like we saw that last season, right? We were killing him going into halftime. Coming out of halftime, they figure something out. If we're up on Georgia at halftime this season, that game is over, right? Like we're going to win. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I was gonna say, I mean, if anybody thinks, these guys just hate Kirby and that whole deal. No, seriously, take your time and think, okay, when has Kirby Smart ever played a team that had equal talent or more talent?
And he actually beat them.
That's what I'm saying. Just think about those times. The only team he beat was Ohio State, and let's go back and look at that game. They should have lost. Anybody that watched that game, go back and rewatch it. They should have lost that one. They should have lost by like a couple touchdowns. You know, the whole Bama game, their whole team goes down when they beat them that one year. Literally, their two best players, their two best receivers were hurt, and Jameson Williams and forget the other guy. It was the other guy. They're two top guys, and that was a year when that's what they were. Those guys went down. They ended up losing that game. So they don't beat anybody that can match them. But the issue is there's only a handful of teams that can match them on paper. I think Ohio State's one. Texas may be one. Bama, I mean, I think Bama traditionally has been that. You know, I think Tennessee this year is one of those teams too. So there's only a handful of teams, and then there's those teams like Ole Miss. Well,
I was about to say. I think Ole Miss can too. But yeah, if you look at any of the games that they've won versus teams with equal or better talent, there's been significant injuries in those games. And I mean, we understand it that injuries do happen, but whenever that team is winning, and you can tell because we can tell because I mean, like we understand what they're doing. They go out and I mean, I hate to kind of say this on live, but I mean, it just is what it is. When you can tell that they're trying to injure people, right? Like they're trying to take somebody out, and that's what ends up happening. And then all of a sudden, the whole tide of that game turns, right? Because that's how they play. That's the thing versus Georgia. You've got to be ready for that because they are going to try to. Some people might not understand or realize or want to accept this, but it's very true. In football, sometimes they're trying to hurt you, like they're trying to injure you. So some coaches do coach it that way, and we can tell, we can see that's Kirby. That's how Georgia is. So that's why we can't stand them, but that's part of it anyway. But
and just one more little sample size too. If you guys want to go back and watch that LSU game when they had Joe Burrow, they played those guys in the SEC. Go watch that game. I don't remember what year that was, but LSU freaking drugged those guys.
Well, was that 2019? Am I off on that?
Might be. Might be. That sounds about right.
Okay.
But go back and watch that game. God freaking man.
Those are the ones that are definitely fun to watch. You already know. I'm gonna try to get to somebody right here we haven't got to just yet. So Scott V says, "What's up, guys? What's going on, Scott?" MG Way says, "Hey, Vol fam, what's going on, MG? What's up, dog?" Let's get to right here. We got Mark Murphy says, "Umarov left guard look versus natural tackle." Wait, Umarov, let me make sure I'm reading this right. Umarov left guard look versus natural tackle. So are you saying that, are you asking, is he more of a natural tackle or is he more of a natural guard?
I think he's saying, it's tough to decipher exactly what he's saying there, but the way I'm kind of reading it is, you know, is he better at guard or is he better at, you know, left tackle? And I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I
haven't really seen him.
Yeah, it's so hard to tell, like, if you don't see these guys every single day, but I think that he could play both. Usually, if you can play tackle, then bumping inside, you usually have a little bit more upside. So I'm just going to kind of defer to maybe he could be better at guard, but at the same time, the fact that, and it's still early in camp, but the fact that, you know, he's not getting as much playing time right now as I would probably expect. You know, I'm a little bit, you know, I'm just curious as to what the heck's going on there. But I think that at some point he's going to end up being a guy. You know what I mean? We'll see. And that's the thing, P, is that you can never really tell this early in fall camp. You can tell just a little bit. But, you know, I would say by scrimmage 2 or coming out of scrimmage 2, we're going to have a pretty solid idea of what the starting rotation is going to look like everywhere on the field. Let's get to some more right here. We've got Brazos P says, "Great post. Thanks, guys. Vol for Life will donate $5 to you." Thank you so much, brother. We most definitely appreciate that. Right here, Matt Stone's asking, will Okoye even play this year? I don't think that he will. We're just too deep up front.
Duty. Yeah, mop up duty.
Yeah, mop up duty. That's what we like. Whenever we talk about him, we're talking about how is he going to look whenever he does get his opportunities into mop up duty. I think that he'll flash a lot. I think that he'll be a guy that, you know, we might be up by several scores. He comes in, gets some sacks for you, and you say, man, we're looking forward to him. And maybe you start to trust him. One thing that I will say, Pete, that I've noticed, his transition from tight end to D end, he looks more like a football player. Obviously, he's been playing football for longer, but he doesn't look like his movements look like football movements now. It doesn't look like, you know what I'm saying?
He does.
Like he's not used to playing football.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, heck, I mean, you know, our guy, well, I'm not going to say his name, but a guy played with Vandy, big muscular guy, played D end. But you threw him a pass. I mean, he looked super awkward, but he was like an all freshman, all SEC guy at D end. So, like, I don't know why the staff tried to put him at tight end. I don't know, but yeah, DN's definitely more natural for him for sure.
Yeah, I think that Heupel and them, I think that the staff just did that because we just didn't have enough depth. We had to find another body there. You know, we had to try something. But you know, again, that speaks to how much depth we have built up inside that room, and now we can switch him on over. And it looks like he's going to be a lot more productive there. You know what? We haven't really talked about the wide receivers very much, but it does sound like Chris Browse, as we spoke about earlier, played well. Squirrel White played well. Heard some good things about Chaz Nimrod and Caleb Webb. So I think that room, you know, obviously very, very deep. You know, I'm super excited about it. What do you think the starting group looks like? Obviously, probably Brew, Squirrel. Who do you think is going to be number 3?
I think it's going to be Chris Brazzell. I think Dante Thornton's missing too much time, and I think Nico just has that rapport, like you talked about earlier, with Chris Brazzell. I think Brazzell will be the guy. And then, you know, I mean, how they rotate after that is really the big question to me. Where does Dante Thornton plug in? I think they're going to pretty much at that point just kind of put the best guy in. So, you know, say somebody comes out, whether it's Squirrel, whoever, who's the next best guy? You know, is it Mike Matthews? Is it Chaz Nimrod? I think they'll kind of put the next best guy. Huh?
Braylon Staley too.
Yeah, man. Hey, I'll tell you, on the game, Braylon Staley is nasty, bro. Like he is quick.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I think that he's going to be really good. You know, we haven't seen him really do a lot in a while. He's kind of been banged up here and there, so he didn't participate in this scrimmage. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say the guy we always forget, Nathan Leacock, seems like he's.
I was just about to bring that up.
Which we've been talking. There it is, right there.
Yep. So, all Vols Talk Show asks, did Nathan Leacock play? Yes, he did. He's a player that that Coach Heupel spoke well about. So you know he's been kind of banged up over the past like season and a half, because I think he was banged up some in spring too, wasn't he, P?
I think so.
Yeah. So now he's back. Yeah, so now that he's back healthy, sounds like he's been putting in a whole bunch of work, catching a whole bunch of footballs, and it sounds like he could be ready to kind of, you know, get into the rotation, get into the mix. So how much of that, like how much can he take advantage of his opportunities once he does get that chance? That's going to be really big. But I think that he is a guy that, I mean, that feels good to know that he can step up for us. Because to be honest with you, we're kind of thinking, man, if he doesn't show up this season, will he transfer out? You know what I'm saying? I think that that's a big part of the reason that we're going out and trying to get Travis Smith. Because, you know, Nathan Leacock was that bigger guy that we're expecting as a veteran to step up. But, you know, that would be huge. That would be really big. I'm very excited to say that about Nathan Leacock for sure.
Yeah. We've been high on him, and we say it every time, is he potentially has them. He might have the most potential in that entire room. I don't care who's in that room. You talk about, and, you know, our dad made it. He made the perfect comparison. I kept trying to compare him to T.O., but the more recent guy, Julio Jones. That's who he is on paper. About 6'3", 220, 6'4", 220, and probably taller than that. When you see him, he looks like he's about 6'6". So
yeah, I mean, he looked pretty, like he looked at least an inch or two taller than Brew, and Brew is 6'3". Like we know Brew is a legit 6'3".
Yeah.
So seeing him standing side by side, I was like, dude, he's got to. I mean, Nathan's got to be at least 6'4". P, like you said, he's got to be close to 220. Might be a shade up under that, but he is going to continue to grow. He's going to keep on getting bigger, stronger, faster. And I think he also ran track, didn't he?
Yeah, I was like, he's another legit speed guy. So
yeah, I mean, he's a solid 4.4. It's very solid 4.4.
Hey, so that was a question. I don't know if where I've seen it at, but somebody asked who's your Tennessee 4x4 team or 4x1 team from this roster?
Okay, 4x1. So I'm gonna go number 1. I'm gonna go Cam Seldon's gonna be number 1 on mine. I think you probably got to put Squirrel in there. How do you round that out? Because we got a lot of people. I don't know. I don't really get to see them running out. I would say, Peyton Lewis. I would probably have them all race. So Peyton Lewis is probably gonna be racing.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll probably have him race like Dante Thornton. Probably put Nathan Leacock in that mix. Who else we got?
Nimrod's a track guy.
Nimrod. That's another track guy.
And Dylan Sampson, I think, is too.
Dylan Sampson. Yeah. Dylan Sampson. I think he was a for real track guy. I think he was a track guy before he really played football.
I think he was, yeah. And I think AP, because I think it was AP is one of the questions they got. And I think AP said he said Ricky Gibson can run like that, which I don't know.
Really? Yeah. So of course, corners. Yeah, you got to have some corners that can run like that. So I would say that my locks would be Cam Seldon is number 1.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like who would you put as number 2? Just
maybe Squirrel. But for me, it'd be
Squirrels.
it'd be between Squirrel and I think Nimrod, just because I know for sure Nimrod was a track guy. Like I know he ran it real deal in Arkansas.
Yeah, but okay, so Dante Thornton, he ran like 24 miles per hour?
Yeah,
It was something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And then I think was Squirrel clock that fast?
I think Squirrel was 24.6.
Okay, so Squirrel was faster than Dante.
I think so.
Okay, so it's Peyton Lewis, it's Squirrel. Dante's got to be in that mix too, but maybe since you're not sure, you have to let Dante, Peyton Lewis, who was the other ones? Chaz, Race.
I mean,
and obviously Samp for sure.
And I think Nathan Leacock. I think Leacock's running like that too.
Leacock and Ricky Gibson, probably Jermod McCoy as well.
Talk about Braylon Staley.
Braylon Staley's up there.
Gosh.
I think he could probably get in there. So we're just gonna let them all race and see what happens.
Yeah, there you go. We got about 10 guys. Got to race it out.
Yeah, but so we've got some real fast guys on this team without question. We got some legitimate track people on this team. We're gonna get to a few more of these. I want to make sure that we can kind of get to everybody's stuff right here. I think that says says I like to see Tennessee give their right ends more looks through the air. Oh, okay. I think that's supposed to say tight ends more looks through the air. How are they going to implement the receivers going in? So we are like we always do a pretty solid job of using our tight ends. In that passing game, we don't overuse them. I actually think that we're going to use them a lot more this season. That's the biggest question, P. And we've kind of touched on this before as well. Now that we have so much talent and so many people, we're going to see how do we manage getting everybody touches, because that's a whole nother part of this. It's not just about, hey, we're going to go out here and play the best players and we're going to try to win. You're dealing with different personalities. So you've got to try to everyone's got to get some touches. So that's going to be, that's going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. But I think that we've got tight ends now that are going to be better receivers than Coach Heupel has ever seen. So you can use them a whole lot more. I think that we'll have some different formations and sets and different plays probably every single week, because you can do so many different things. So I think that it's going to be fun, and we'll see. Like we know that Coach Heupel can coach, but we'll see how good of a coach he actually is based off of what he does with all the talent that he has to kind of work with this year. Or will they just kind of be basic and say, look, we know it's going to work. We're going to stick to that, and we're going to get on up out of all these games.
Yeah, could be. I mean, that's a great question. And to quote, Josh Pate from 247 Sports, that's kind of one of the consequences of success. Now that we have all these guys, now the pressure's on you as a staff to utilize these guys. And so, do we open it up more? Do we give the tight ends a little bit more vertical opportunities? Or, because I think we use them a solid amount, but I think with the tight ends we have now, especially Ethan Davis, I mean, they could be like first team All-SEC caliber guys. Like, they should be getting some touches, but you have receivers too that deserve some touches. So how do we utilize that? Do we split Ethan Davis out wide and give him some chance to pretty much play receiver and kind of get loose that way too? Like, how do we put this guy in a position to be successful? That's something that's on Heupel and his staff to get that done this year.
Yeah, I feel fine about it. Like, there's no cause for concern with that. I know that they'll get that figured out, but it really should be a lot more fun than it is stressful for them. And I think that we've got a good enough locker room that's the way that it will play out. So Jeremy Hutchings is saying, I will never understand why so many people that watch videos can at least hit the like button. Thanks so much for that. He says it's so easy, kind of OCD for me to make sure I hit the like button. I don't know why. Go Big Orange. Hey, Jeremy, we appreciate that so much because you know what? That helps us out tremendously. Literally just hitting that like button. If you're not subscribed, just doing that helps us out so much. So we appreciate everyone who does that, people that comment, that join us in the chat, all that. That's really big, and we are very, very grateful for it. Right here, the Invisible Redneck says Brew looks completely different than the last time we saw him play. Okay, yeah. I think that he does too. He looks more lean. I think that he's actually bigger, but he looks more lean. He looks more explosive. He looks focused. He looks dialed in. And we have so many players that are veterans that are kind of like in that, because they understand this is our last season. So they're taking it very serious. And we all know that as you get older, like your mind changes and you look at things differently. So I think that being that we've done a really good job of going out against some younger players that will listen to what the older players have to say, I mean, it's just a perfect storm. So I feel great about it. Obviously, it has to be a special year. Things have to kind of bounce our way. But this is our best chance, I feel like, over the next 2 to 3 seasons to win the whole doggone thing. And it's, things like that. Whenever you notice how different they look, not just physically, but how different they look in their eyes, how different they're moving. You know what I'm saying? You can tell that there is a really, really big difference. But that is going to be it, y'all. I know that we've got a few more here. I'm gonna get to a couple more right here. Let me see. I see right here we've got Scott V saying Brazel in the 200. Yeah, he's a 200 guy for sure. He's built for that. No doubt. Got them long legs. And then okay, so he's saying that here's your Jeremy right here. We got Scott V saying Pierce. You know what? Pierce is a guy that I think Pierce is a legitimate 4-4 guy. I don't know if he's like top 10 as far as speed on the team, but he's definitely close. Yeah, he's most definitely close.
I mean, because he clocked that 23, like whatever that time he clocked. There's only like 15 players in the whole country that clocked that time last season.
Oh wow!
So he's on that pick against Iowa. So I mean, he is. I think he deserves to at least race with those guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we got to throw him in there and just let him have a shot, because you just never know. But all right, y'all. So that's gonna be it for this one. Thank y'all so much for sticking all the way to the end. I hope that y'all got a whole lot of information out of this. And as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. We will see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.